This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch and Tim Dahl. Number 167.
Okay, all right.
Bingo. How you doing, Tim?
Good. We are right now in Nashville, Tennessee. And
Hot as hell.
My cousin-in-law, is that how we were? He's doing the engineering on this one, which is it's good to have people in the pro sound business in your family when you're traveling and you need to do a traveling podcast.
Hey, the only pros I had in my family, I'm not going into what their profession was. Let's just put it this way. If you are what you eat, Tim, perhaps Beyond Meat COO Doug Ramsey was just feeling a little bit less than human. The 53-year-old was arrested over the weekend after a road rage altercation in an Arkansas parking garage after a college football game. And according to WKNWA, a Subaru inched its way out in front of Ramsey's Bronco, connecting with his tire, and he came out steaming mad, according to the police. Punching through the back windshield of the other vehicle, Mr. Beyond Meat himself pulled the driver in close and started punching his body. The executive then bit the owner's nose, ripping the flesh on the tip. Ramsey, who's been the COO of Beyond Meat since last December, also threatened to kill the other driver. According to the man and one other witness, he was arrested on charges of making terroristic threats and third-degree battery. You know, it's interesting because I used to often say that I would really like to bite somebody's nose off.
I never really had that urge, but I wonder if he's consuming too much of his own product and it's actually getting to his head a little bit.
Well, maybe he was maybe he was just sick of fake meat and wanted a taste of the real thing. He's becoming a cannibal after eating only veggie meats.
Well, I mean, I don't know if you're saying he's the inventor or like the CEO.
No, COO since December only.
Okay. I mean, you know, the demographic that's aimed towards doesn't mean he doesn't eat meat, but maybe he does. Who knows?
All right, I just got to go into this one because this is another one that just cracked me up. Headline is Slime Trail leads German customs agent to bags filled with 93 giant African land snails. You know, those things are like a foot big almost. They're actually quite cute. They look kind of like a pet I wouldn't mind having. But anyway, so German customs officials say a trail of slime led them to a stash of almost 100 giant African land snails and other items hidden inside bags at Dusseldorf Airport. I mean, these
snails can really fuck up. If you're on the wrong continent, it can fuck up a lot of things. But,
absolutely.
But can you eat them? I mean, can they be like the supersized escargot?
Well, I mean, they had, besides the nearly 100 land snails, they had 62 pounds of fish and smoked meat and a suitcase full of rotting meat, all imported from Nigeria and destined for African's Good Shop in Western Germany. So the snails themselves were handed to an animal rescue service. I don't know. I'll adopt one. They're kind of cute. They're not fuzzy. They're not furry, but they are slimy. Like most of my
motivation in any of this? I don't.
Oh, importing to a Nigerian store. But how about the rotting meat? I mean, people, I'm telling you.
I mean, yeah.
Leave it out.
Yeah. I mean,
Slime trail.
I mean Germany's got some of the cleanest meat and some of the best pork in the planet. So I don't know why you'd want to, ship unrefrigerated meat from Nigeria.
Well, because it was for an African store. So the guy was just scamming, scheming, and got caught sliming, I guess.
Well, Kalani David.
Kalani? Hi, Kalani?
Yeah, there you go. Barrientos, I should know this. A world-class pro surfer, 24 years old, died the other day. He was, I think, just practicing. I don't think it was a competition in Costa Rica. Well, the problem is he has Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, which is basically you're getting seizures all the time, kind of like epilepsy. And his doctor was saying, no more driving, no more surfing. And he said, well, I think I'm blessed. I did pass out while I was driving once, but it worked out. Well, sure enough, he had one of these seizures while he was in the middle of the ocean or close to the shore, I should at least. And that doesn't work out. He drowned. I mean, he just sunk to the bottom. I mean, you have seconds at that point. But, he wanted to – that's what he did. And he knew the risks and this is for the surfing community. I guess this is a devastating loss. But I don't know if someone told me I'd die if I kept on playing bass, I'd probably keep on playing bass. I think it would.
Well, this doesn't surprise me, but there's a new book out called Secret City, The Hidden History of Gay Washington by James Kirkchick. And it provides an in-depth, exhaustively researched account of the underground world of primarily white gay men through presidential administrations from Franklin Roosevelt to Bill Clinton. His focus was primarily on white gay men since they were the predominant, during the racist, misogynist era he covers. So, and quote Kirkchick, I do talk about lesbians, but women had very little political power during the Cold War era. It's all about white men, and women didn't have security clearances, therefore, didn't put them on the FBI's radar. So, he said, moreover, gay male sexuality was much more policed, particularly by the FBI. Quote, unlike gay men, women weren't having sex in public places, and gay bars were far more likely to get raided than a lesbian bar. And there were so many more who identified as gay men than there were women who identified as lesbians. So, he does talk about President Carter's advisor, Midge Costanza, but it was only confirmed that she was a closet lesbian after she died. So, many lesbian and gay men and their sexuality were only revealed after they died, mainly because they could be arrested and lose their jobs. So the biggest surprise that he uncovered was Ronald Reagan. When he was running for president, there was a whole gay aura around Reagan as an actor in Hollywood. So in 1939, I haven't seen this film, but Reagan was a co-star in the film Dark Victory, and he was asked to play the gay best friend of the lead character, and he was very uncomfortable about that. Maybe it struck a little too close to home, and face it, if he were sleeping with Nancy, he'd have to go gay.
I mean, Nancy's, one of her best friends was Rock Hudson, and basically the denial of the AIDS epidemic kind of didn't get it didn't get undenied or not. I guess it basically until Nancy's like, Ronnie, we need a little help here. My best friend's dying.
Well, okay. Then there was the gay scandal in 1967 when Reagan was governor of California that involved an alleged gay orgy of Reaganites at a house in Lake Tahoe, which is where all the gay rumors began about former Congressman Jack Kemp, who ran as a Republican vice presidential candidate in 1996 with Senator Bob Dole, who probably, I can't trip on a crip. Anyway, that was a good one, right? So this book is basically the pre-Clinton era, of course, and he points out, Kennedy's lifelong best friend, Lem Billings, was gay. In fact, as a teen, Billings wrote Kennedy what amounts to a love letter. Kennedy rebuffed Billings by saying, I'm not that kind of a boy, but they remain close friends.
Well, I mean, in Massachusetts, there's also the openly homosexual guy. What was his name again? Barney Frank. Frank.
Yeah, absolutely. He was a hoot. I liked him. Anyway, I think this could be a real page turner. The Secret City, the Hidden History of Gay Washington. I'm always interested in other people's sexuality since they know nothing about mine. Suspicions are all confirmed.
Well, I mean, the Queen had just died supposedly for years, and
which Queen?
The one I'm glad, the one Elizabeth II. Is that what her name was?
About frickin' time.
Yeah, exactly.
Gee, look, if I live that old, just put a pillow on my face and sit on it. Do me a favor.
Supposedly, there's in Buckingham Palace. I mean, a lot of.
I know what to name my salon now. Buckingham Palace. I like it.
Now we're talking. So, her butlers. That was a big problem. Of course, once she would go to bed, they were doing their thing too.
Frolicking.
Oh yeah. That's whatevs. I mean, it sounds like an interesting book. Well, I'll make the thread through this. STD cases.
On the uprise.
David Harvey of National Coalition of STD director, quote unquote, says right now it's out of control.
I mean,
syphilis is up 26%.
We've been wearing masks for 2 years. Can you just put a bag on it, please?
26%. HIV is up 16%. Gonorrhea is up 20%. And I'm wondering.
Tim. Before you ask, I've never had gonorrhea, syphilis, herpes, or any number. I'm miraculous. I didn't have COVID. I just could be a super non-spreader. I mean,
maybe.
Open wide for Chunky. I don't know what to say.
I mean, it's simple. People are having more unprotected sex. I mean, that's what that equals. And I'm wondering, are people just having more sex? I mean, is Tinder and all that stuff part of it? I mean, there's probably a lot of factors.
Yeah.
I mean, I know for a while, because HIV was going down for a while, but it was going up in the geriatric community because of Viagra, and so you would have guys in like the Korean War picking up their old ways, and they're going to the 7-Eleven and getting like a Eileen Warnos kind of 7-Eleven hooker, and they're like, and then they're giving it to their wives, like, you know, Pearl Wilson, you have HIV, and like, what, you know?
Well, all right. And speaking about Eileen Warnos, you know, this is actually kind of making me kind of murderous here. Okay, so I'm going to. These male politicians are pushing for women who receive abortions to be punished with prison time. Where do you think? What state would you think?
Repeat again?
The politicians pushing for women who receive abortions to be punished with prison
All
time.
right. I mean, that could be a handful of states. I would say Mississippi, Oklahoma, Texas.
Further.
Georgia.
All right, you've
Florida.
had enough chances. Louisiana.
All right.
A businessman turned state representative from rural Oil City, Louisiana, and a Baptist pastor banded together earlier this year on a radical mission. They were adamant that a woman who receives an abortion should receive the same criminal consequences as one who drowns a baby. I'd like to drown both of them. Under a bill they promoted, pregnant people could face murder charges even if they were raped or doctors determined the procedure was needed to save their own lives. Doctors who attempted to help patients conceive. And first of all, let's go back to the fucking beginning of this. I thought it was separation of church and state. Why don't we have a Baptist pastor telling me what I can do with, fortunately, my very unfertile female parts? You know what? Drown yourself and save me the trouble. Oh, the problem is, only 4 people spoke against the bill during the committee meeting. Of course, all women. Give me a break. I think I'm going to Oil City. That was me reaching for my revolver.
All right. Well, is that
bang, boom, bang?
Are we done with the stories, or should we have lunch, or what do you want to do?
Tim, you have me almost every day that you're alive, son, and you're still alive, so it must be good eating here. I think it's time for lunch. This is the Lydian Span with the Lydia Lunch. Tim Dahl, episode number 167. Special guest, another pervert that we know, Eric Paul. This is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and our special guest, Eric Paul, who some of you might know from any of his numerous musical enterprises, most specifically from a while ago, Arab on Radar, also written a few books, and he's going to bless us with a short piece from one of his books. Eric Paul, welcome.
Thank you, Lydia. Thank you, Tim. I will read You Are a Terrible Home Surgeon from my book, A Popular Place to Explode. While out mowing the lawn, a small bird flew into my chest and stuck there. It's America. I can't afford health insurance. I said, you need to remove it. It's not that unusual. I had a friend cure his son's depression with a fork and an electrical socket. And do you remember the article in the paper last summer about the woman who pulled a giant splinter from her husband's heart? You grabbed the scissors and began to hack. You are a terrible home surgeon. You removed only the wings and a fleshy chunk of the body. You left the beak inside me. It won't stop singing its unbroken song.
That's a very, very chipper piece that speaks a lot to many of our situations who cannot afford health care.
I agree.
And is this story true?
No, I've never had a bird stick in me. However, I have practiced home surgery when I did not have health care. Yes.
How did that go? Was there an infection?
Not well. No. I only have one testicle now.
Oh, you know.
How many do you need?
I started with 3. Now I'm down to 1.
I'll take the other one if it's
you want
okay.
it?
I'll be the first bidder. I'll be the high bidder on the block. I love surgical instruments. I've had a lot of surgery, so I think I'm kind of a home expert. But
I mean, nudicles are not so expensive, so you can just if you like the feel of two, or you can just hope for a miracle and pray to the god of testicles, and hopefully.
Did you just make up a new Greek god?
He's always been my god, and as a matter of fact,
Testicles.
I've often offered anybody who wants to have a vasectomy, home or otherwise, now that we are facing such draconian measures in this country, as usual. So I'll just extend that to you, but maybe with the no nut, you might not have a problem anyway.
Can I tell you my vasectomy story?
I would love to hear it.
Okay, so after my son was born, and after 6 months of not sleeping, my wife and I just said, one is good. And my wife looked at me and said, clip it, snip it. So I made an appointment, and it was a long wait, oddly enough, to see.
Wait a minute, how long ago was this, though? You can imagine the wait now. Oh my God.
He was 5 years ago. So I went and called to make the appointment. And it was like a year-long wait list. And
holy moly.
I swear to God, I was like, I can't wait that long. And the woman on the phone, the receptionist, says, there is an alternative. And I said, what? Well, we have a female doctor that does them, but a lot of people feel uncomfortable, but the wait list is only about 3 to 4 weeks out. And I said, certainly, I don't mind who's cutting me.
Yeah, well, why would people care about that?
They're shy down there sometimes.
I don't know why, but I said, that is perfectly fine. Can I just meet with the doctor first? So I got an appointment, and I kid you not, the doctor's name was Dr. Wang. I'm not even making this up. It was Dr. Wang.
And how was your Wang Dang Doodle after that little incision?
So my vasectomy did not go well.
Whoa!
So,
what? Dr. Wang was a what the hell?
But she blamed my vas deferens. So this is what happened. I go in there, I get the shave, get the shot to numb me, and 10, 15 minutes into it, I mean, these things are only supposed to last about 5 minutes. Dr. Wang's talking to the assistant and saying, we might need more anesthesia. And I was like, why do you need more anesthesia?
We have a problem.
We're having trouble locating your vas deferens, quote unquote. I'm not kidding you. So I got some more anesthesia, kind of went into this fugue state. Took about 45 minutes for them to find the things to clip. I finished about 10 of 5. The office closes at 5. The doctor takes off. I'm alone at the hospital with the receptionist. And she's like, where is your ride? And I was completely fucking fucked up. I had like so much anesthesia in me. I'm texting my wife. She's like, I'm stuck in traffic. I look at this woman. She's stuck in traffic. So she waits with me another half an hour till my wife arrives. I go home. It's only supposed to take about a day or two before you get up. We're talking 7, 8 days later. I'm in serious pain. I'm popping the Tylenol with codeine. Something's not right. I called them up, and they said, we knew one of the appointments from last week was going to be calling. I guess it's you. And I said, oh, fuck yeah, it's me. What's happening? I can't get better. I got this giant blue sack down there. I run out of my Tylenol with codeine. She said,
I mean, that's all they're going to give you anyway, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, that works. No.
Yeah. But she said, the doctor had mentioned that one of the patients, she had to go fishing for their vas deferens. So they literally went fishing in my balls. True story. Antica.
Now, this is not to discourage other men. That was quite a while ago.
I'm a complete rarity. Go get them.
Well, that's why I think maybe the losing of the last nut would probably be a relief.
Yeah.
So the vast difference that's between the testicles and the seminal glands, is that what they're snipping? I think it's
as far as I know, it's deep in my balls. Deep in my balls.
It's actually not in your balls. That's what I'm saying. It's the
How
two
about
between
it's somewhere that felt like my balls.
Yes, it's two between the balls and your seminal glands.
And first of all, anesthesiology is not an exact science. It's not. It still isn't. It just isn't. I've already talked about my personal experience waking up on the operating table, not going back into that. Oh, horrors of horrors. But it's not an exact. But however, in this, the rush for vasectomies, they've come a long way. I do not discourage men. I'll hold their hand. I'll take them to the doctor. I perform it at home. I'm practicing now.
Yeah. Well, you might be better than Dr. Wang was. So Dr. Wang was just out of college.
Dr. Wang needed to be sued.
I mean, Dr. Wang, I don't think it was because she was a woman. I think maybe she's not that.
Maybe she had a reputation, a bad reputation. She was a terrible fisher.
I think it was down to you, Eric Paul, not, the straightest man on the block with all of the deviations you may have put yourself through voluntarily and consensually. I don't know. I'm just going on intuition.
Well, Eric, I mean, based on some of the stories, just by knowing you and some of the stories you've read, read. It seems like you've had some bad luck below the waist. I mean, you also had your asshole maced once at a show. Right?
I did.
I think we're gonna have to. I mean, we've just did a whole intro on anal problems. I think we're gonna have to put those. I think we're gonna have to get those for Eric's.
It's because you triggered some girl with your performance. So she thought.
I'm amazed that you remember.
She maced your anus.
But she went into her little. Basically vigilante. I mean, she was the judge, jury, and executioner on that one. It's like she's seeing a performance, and because she can't handle it, she thought it was justified to mace your ass.
But wait, first of all, why was your ass exposed?
Well, Philadelphia, that's basically why.
He had a Philly cheesesteak, and it wasn't sitting right.
Well, when you're around a bunch of assholes, there's no reason why you shouldn't get your own out, I guess.
No, it's I gotta add that to my story.
I've heard of Scotch bonnet pepper on the tip of a penis, and that's pretty painful. But a macing of an anus, this could be your next book.
Well, I mean, if you get like Ben Gay or something close to any mucous membrane, like even closer, you're like, but a mace on the asshole must be just unbelievable.
I mean, this is a note to women. I usually discourage pepper spray. I say it's always better to have a screech alarm, but now I realize, well, if you can get their pants down, get behind them and mace their anus, no biggie.
You're gonna win.
Success at last.
You're gonna win. It was very, very, very painful.
Oh. Did you have to go to the hospital?
I did not. I went.
Sit on an ice cube.
I did. I left the set. It was at a loft space. Set was over. I went into the bathroom. I'm not kidding you. I filled up water and just sat in the sink with my anus.
Maybe you should have sat in a vat of milk the same way that when Clarice too hot.
Oh, I didn't even think of that. I was not thinking straight.
Did you confront her? Because I mean, that's an assault. That's actually illegal. What she did.
An assault.
She was removed from the show and the venue, and actually, she was removed largely by our bass player at the time, Andrea. So Andrea,
whoa, that's good.
So Andrea,
femme on femme removal.
Andrea's tough, and she approached the woman, and then the people promoting the show had kicked her out, and I just had my pants down. I
have to ask, Eric, how's your ass feel today?
It feels good, a little bit looser than it did before I played Philadelphia, but it still works, luckily.
It could have been sealed shut just in horror. It could have sealed itself up to never smile at you again.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. And then what?
Smile at anyone.
If it's sealed, then it's like this Play-Doh worm coming out of his dick when he takes a crap.
Well, I have to say, nudity is a bit boring now on stage, but this was some time ago. But you stick your ass out, something might happen to just worm its way up there.
Yeah. I feel still partly responsible. It was
That's ridiculous.
It was 1998, 1999.
That's ridiculous. I mean, the thing is, it's a privilege and luxury to exaggerate victimization. And if someone can't handle words like whatever or performances you're expressing, they're the problem.
They should get out.
Yeah, exactly.
But then again, as to quote J.G. Thirlwell, don't stick it out if you don't want to share it. I don't mean to make light of your pain, but hello.
I agree. I'm agreeing.
I feel that some of my
maybe it needed to get used.
So, any other assaults from all their other bands along the way, which are, of course, Chinese Stars?
Chinese Stars. You've been in some controversial musical organizations and
organizations is a great
Doomsday Student, Chinese Stars, and then now Psychic Graveyard, which is doing pretty well. You guys have a lot of stuff coming up, but we'll get to that in shortly. I mean, how often? I mean, people they don't dare to assault Lydia on stage, but they try to heckle her every now and then, and it's over. It's over before it starts. It's over before it starts. But
I wouldn't take on Lydia.
Look, I had to heckle Eric Paul off the stage. He didn't even heckle me. That's true.
She did heckle me, but I got to tell you, I thought of it as a rite of passage.
And I warned you in advance. I was honored. I gave you a time limit. You exceeded it. Somebody has to step in.
I was honored. I really genuinely was.
And look, an early spoken word. I mean, I had to deal with violent men, and then I would just write violence in before it began, and that cut it off right at the base, shall we say, of the dick. No biggie. But heckling. Oh, please. I'm a professional.
Well, Lydia and I were in the desert a couple years ago, and there was some spoken word. I did some solo bassing, and
Joshua John Tottenham. We wanted John Tottenham on the
John Tottenham was great, but this kind of nebbish little girl, probably 17.
Hippie dribble.
Yeah, and she was about 6 or 7 minutes in, and when Lydia goes, "Wrap it up, sister, enough." And she couldn't even wrap it up. She loss of words, stumbling. It's just fizzled away instantly. And
pillar of salt.
Yeah, it was basically the sand in the wind of the desert. It was just like overdone.
Look, I have put many a person on the spoken word stage, and I'm very kind with it usually. But sometimes, look, how many times have I told you, Timothy Somewhere tie it up, Timmy? I've told you that many times.
Not on stage, but
never.
But in hotel rooms and in apartments.
In my own house, I put my fucking hand around your neck a few times, telling you, if you don't tie it up, I'm going to. Anyway.
Well, come on. Sometimes you like to have fun on a weekday night.
And let me tell you this, Timothy, I do have fun when I got my hands around your neck.
Woo. Woo. Well,
look, he's got more nicknames than Santa Claus.
Oh my lord. So Eric, so you're in all these bands. You have this whole history. And I know a lot of your stories. I mean, Eric Paul's not your birth name, but you've officially changed it to that, which is a cool story if you want to give that. I don't know if you want to. You've been in a lot of bands, and then you got into writing, and now you're teaching. I mean, you're a busybody. You're always.
What do you teach, Eric Paul? What do you teach?
I actually teach creative writing at the university.
I'll be getting my fellowship very shortly for my contribution to contemporary music. So see what happens to us. We eventually end up institutionalized.
That's a great way to look at it, because I agree, I am institutionalized right now, but I do enjoy it. I really do enjoy it.
I think it's so important. Words are important to me. I think it's very important.
Yes. I feel like it's a privilege to be able to make my money this way, because there was a really long time that I said, I don't know how I'm ever going to make money. And then at some point I went back to school to learn how to become a better writer. And they said, well, here's your scholarship, but you have to teach for your scholarship. So I started teaching, not knowing what the fuck I was doing, but there's a low expectation set. Here is a grad student teaching you. I fell in love with it. And fortunately enough, I was able to land a position when I graduated. And then it sort of snowballed into multiple positions.
Well, and I think it's so important in whatever format that you can to inspire other people to create,
Yes.
especially with words, because stories need to be told. And people also need to be made aware of the literature that's come before them, just so they
Yep,
know what's
yep.
happened.
I
I mean,
agree.
you know, us coming from a position where words are the priority, that, you know, this is also why I like to do spoken word workshops. Like you write, how do you perform? I think it's very important. I mean, I always try to push musicians to do improv workshops, musical workshops. I just think it's so important to encourage other people.
Yeah, I agree. And it feels as though if you can reach a couple of kids per class,
Exactly.
show them a couple writers they may not have heard of. We discuss everything. I bring music in as well. And I openly share my history and my work with my students. And, you know, it comes with mixed reviews. You know, they Google me and they look at stuff and figure it out. But
But what literature influenced you, and when did you start reading and then realize, well, okay, first of all, I'm going to do lyrics and then I'm going to actually write some books? I mean, what was the trajectory of that concept in your life?
So for a while in high school, I was focused on being a drummer, and in the town that I was in, there was only like 4 musicians. And Craig Curek, who was in a lot of bands with me, was just a better drummer. And we wanted to be
Great drummer.
And we wanted to be in a punk rock band together. And he said, well, you know, you're sort of interested in writing. You're kind of a nerd.
It's your job.
You're in front now. So that's when I started. But I will admit that when I started, I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I kind of cringed a little bit with a lot of my earlier lyrics, but I knew that there was something there that was, you know, drawing me to it. And then I started to sort of, I bought, what is that book? Nick Cave's King Inc. And I was really inspired by the fact that he could have these lyrics and these poems coexist at the same time and really take.
Oh, he's a great lyricist. He's a great lyricist.
Yes.
Really well, especially early on.
Writer.
I mean, the birthday party. I mean, those lyrics they are Shakespearean and Southern Gothic, all in one. I
agree.
And sadly, he's become a Christian, but that's his path to bear, not mine. But whatever.
I did not know that. Oh, geez.
Enough said.
Heartbroken.
But that was kind of what started me on that. Was I was a big birthday party fan, and then when I realized that he was sort of also writing and doing music as well, I thought of it as a possibility. And then I just kind of worked at it for a long time and sucked it along for a long time. And then, but eventually things started to click.
You know, I think I put him on the stage for his first spoken word show.
Wow.
Him, quite a few people, him, Vincent Gallo, first and only time.
Wow.
A lot of people, because I'm a cattle prodder that way.
Bibby
Hansen. Oh, Rollins was already doing spoken word, and someone brought me to see it. And this is when his spoken word is harsh and really terrifying. And I'm like, I got to do spoken word with him, because at that time I was about the harshest thing out there, and I still am harsh. And he's done a lot of other things. Well, now he has. I have to give him credit. I mean, he's done a lot of other things, including going to war zones and doing photography there. I mean, he's done a lot of other things. But when I first saw him, he was doing like family man, first man on the block. You know, people were terrified. I'm like, well, this is a good combination. And then we actually proposed to Hubert Selby, who had just been doing accounting for a university or something, to come out and do shows with us.
Is that the person who wrote Last Exit?
It is Brooklyn. Last Exit to Brooklyn. Requiem for a Dream, one of the most heartbreaking in a book. Absolutely nervous breakdown. So yeah,
I saw Henry Rollins when I was in undergrad, and largely I didn't remember a lot of the spoken word, but he did tell a really funny story about getting in a fight and getting messed up, going to the hospital and having the desire to jerk off in the hospital with a intravenous. And I do remember that was a pretty funny story, and that stood out. And I admired his commitment to his masturbation.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's all I'll say. Nothing. I got no comment on that. I admire anybody who masturbates in hospitals. What can I say? Back to the surgeon in me.
I mean, it's more common than you think. People in comas being impregnated by like janitors and all.
Tim, you had to go there.
Hey, you guys brought up masturbating in hospitals. I mean, which probably happen.
Eric, I'm going to tell you about my favorite spoken word performance, and it was with Hubert Selby, who had been sober for 40 or more years. And someone told me I should contact Harry Dean Stanton, whose performance in Paris, Texas, that monologue is so amazing. And Harry Dean Stanton had been performing around LA at the Mint doing like some acoustic stuff. And I called him out of the blue. He didn't know who I was. And so I said, well, I'm kind of like Bukowski, but more physical, because I knew he knew who that was. And so it was the Knitting Factory in LA. We're doing a beat generation. I'm like, look, I'm not beat, neither is Hubert Selby, but I'll do it. So I was the meat between Hubert Selby and Harry Dean Stanton. And Harry Dean Stanton wasn't sober for 40 minutes. And they didn't know each other, and they were both the same age. I couldn't believe that Harry Dean Stanton wouldn't know Requiem for a Dream, the movie, at least. So that was my absolute favorite spoken word show. And I think that Harry Dean Stanton might have read some Bukowski and Sam Shepard, or it was pretty fantastic.
Wow, that is incredible.
Getting in touch with Harry Dean Stanton for a while was difficult. He was like, you go in between like just kind of hobo living in parking lots.
Well, I got his number from Leila Nabolsi, who spent 17 years producing Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, who was Hunter S. Thompson's paramour for a while, and then long-term defender. 17 years to get Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, the movie produced, which I think is great. I think it's a great movie.
I do. I like that movie too as well. I like the book as well. Yeah.
The book as well. All right, we're gonna take a break.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break, and so you're gonna get a second invite, and we're gonna meet in 5 minutes. So go to your email, and it's the same thing, but it's a new invite.
And then why don't you look for something to read again? Let's like maybe 2 minutes or less. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Eric Paul, who's going to bless us with another one of his pieces from one of his collections of writings. Thank you, Eric Paul.
This one's called The Heart Attack. It's from that same collection, A Popular Place to Explode, which was released by Heartworm Press, really cool press out of Los Angeles. I was visiting with my aunt and uncle. While having a heated discussion about the upcoming presidential election, my uncle, who was leaning against the stove, put his hand to his chest, went pale, then collapsed onto the kitchen floor. Upon impact, he burst open like a water balloon dropped by some mischievous child from a rooftop. My uncle, who had just been arguing in favor of tax breaks and limited government, was now a giant pool of blood and guts at my feet. My aunt screamed, "We have to save him. We have to save him." She pointed to the utility closet and ordered me to grab the mop and bucket. In an attempt to comfort her, I wrapped my arms around her shoulders and whispered, "He's gone. There was nothing we could do." She pushed me away and grabbed the drinking straw out from a fountain soda he'd left on the counter. She got down on her hands and knees and began sucking up my dead uncle as if he were a Bloody Mary. Now, I heard my mother gossip about my aunt's drinking, so I wasn't surprised.
Oh boy.
Gruesome. Lovely. I just read this book. I don't even know how I came to it because it just came out like 2 weeks ago. And I have to say, other than Hog by Samuel Delaney, it is one of the most enjoyably disgusting books I've ever read. And it's called Slob by Aaron Beauregard. Never heard of him. It is absolutely, it's filth. It's kind of filth porn. And just that last little bit about supping up with a straw reminded me, I'm suggesting it. I mean, I don't even know how I came to this book, a string on Amazon. I was kind of so delightedly horrified. I have to say, I was impressed because there's very few books or writing that really go beyond the beyond.
And it was what called Slob by Eric or
S-
Aaron?
Slob by Aaron Beauregard.
Aaron. Okay, I'm gonna have to look that up.
Oh, you're gonna love it. Trust me.
That sounds up my alley.
So you teach, you write books, but you still have to, as I do, for some bizarre reason, have to go back to doing music.
I can't get away from it.
I mean, I was going to go further.
It's impulsive.
You're raising a family.
Yes.
You're teaching, you're writing, and you're in a touring band. And
Yes.
How do you do it all, Eric?
I don't really know. I don't tour as much.
How don't you do it all?
I obviously I don't do it like I used to do it. So when I was sort of getting together with Nathan, the other songwriter in Psychic Graveyard, and we were entertaining the idea of working together.
And Nathan was in San Diego, right?
He lives in San Diego.
So that's really amazing. It's a very different process than you ever did before.
Very different process. The drummer lives in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then Paul and I live here. But we kind of signed up, or I kind of signed up with the idea that, could we keep it to under 2 weeks at a time if we travel? And I have found that 2 weeks is where I can comfortably tour without unraveling. After that, I lose my mind. I really do.
And so how long of a space do you need between multiple 2 weeks? Because you're doing a bunch of micro tours.
Yeah, they're a week at a time. So we're going out with Mel Banana.
Oh, that's cool. That's interesting.
I'm really excited. We're going up from Boston down to Richmond, Virginia. We're not playing New York City with them. They're playing another festival, but we're playing with Chat Pile at St. Vitus for 2 nights, and I'm pretty excited about that band as well. So then
when's that happening? September, October.
Soon.
Yeah, mid-October. I'll let Tim know. Yeah.
And the thing is, I mean, this country is so vast that it's actually, unless you really want to just suffer, it's hard to do anything more than a week or 2 weeks in a clump.
Yeah.
It's really difficult.
I agree. Yeah. It does get a little treacherous, but we're doing that week. We're taking a couple days off. We're flying into Texas to play this festival.
Wow, I'm on the same fest.
That's right. I cannot wait to see you down
When
there.
is that? What is that fest?
That's like right before Halloween. No Coast Fest, and it's a
it's a good
shitload of bands. Yeah, but it's in Denton, but it's not
Denton.
it's not run by Rick Ives.
Okay.
It's run by the older guy that also works at Rubber Gloves.
Yeah,
but, that's
it's run by Jeff.
Yeah,
Helen. Helen.
No, I think that's the same.
What did you? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. We played it last year and we had a wonderful time, but there was a lot of cancellations because of there was a COVID outbreak. So there was like Helmet was scheduled to play with us, and some other more nationally known bands, and they all just got kind of freaked out about COVID. So we just showed up and played anyway, but still had a wonderful time. Not that I'm not respectful of COVID, but we kind of weighed the risks and we felt okay about it. And we had a wonderful time. So I'm excited to go back. We're playing with USA Nails, Tropical Fuckstorm, Hammer Party. And
you're the night before. You're on the Friday. I think we're on the Saturday.
I think we're gonna be there the weekend and enjoy the fest because it has so many incredible bands.
We're playing with Mets, who you've also toured with.
Yeah, we did exactly 2 weeks with them in the UK in April and May. But
what did you do?
That's
where you're at. What did you do during the pandemic?
Well, the pandemic was really fucking hard. I had to work through it, and it was all remote. And my wife had to work through it, and it was all remote. And my son was home. There was no school. He is on the autism spectrum, so remote learning was literally impossible for him. So we kind of unraveled every day. I'm not even kidding you. It was like
I believe you.
So sorry to hear that. We took turns. Like, you work for these 2 hours, we work for these 2 hours, and that's what it was. And obviously we were having a lot of anxiety, but he had a ton of anxiety. He really didn't understand what was going on. He didn't understand why he couldn't leave, why he couldn't go places, because he's kind of a sensory seeking kid. He really likes to do a lot of stuff. And then when we were finally able to actually do some stuff in a limited capacity, he was terrified by people with masks. It scared the shit out of him. So then it kind of made us have these limitations in terms of what we could do. It was a really long 2 years. lot of dark
Yeah,
times.
and it wipes you out for anything else too. I
Yes.
mean, anxiety is because it's like electrical friction. It
Yes.
burns you,
Yep.
and then you're exhausted. So
I
you're
agree.
either running on the spasticity or you're obliterated.
Yep. I agree. We would all pass out every night.
Yeah.
Basically at the same time, wake up at the same time and survive.
Yeah.
And obviously I adore my son. I love him endlessly, but sometimes I used to hear from my friends that were like, this is the greatest time of my life. I'm getting unemployment and I'm just writing or doing music. And I was like, I could really stab you and not think twice about it right now. But yeah, I wasn't very creative during the pandemic. Nathan and I were able to cobble together about 9 or 10 songs for an album. It took a long time. It was about a year and a half. So the only creative outlet I had was sometimes at night when my son would go to sleep, I would do some tracking. I have a little home studio, send it back to Nathan, and then he would kind of put the songs together. And then we actually sent it to Seth Manchester at Machines with Magnets. He mixed it and kind of compiled the album for us, and we put that out. So that was kind of the only thing that I wrote a quote unquote achieved during that time.
What's that album called, Eric?
It's called Veins Feel Strange.
By Psychic Graveyard?
By Psychic Graveyard, yeah.
And you guys are on 3-1G or is it
No,
on Skin Graft?
we're on a label called Death Bomb Arc out of Los Angeles.
Out of Los Angeles, okay.
We did release something on Skin Graft, though. Our first album was on Skin Graft, and then recently released a split album with this band from London called USA Nails, and that was on Skin Graft as well, and also a UK label called Box Records. But generally speaking, our working relationship is mostly with Death Bomb Arc now. They've released most of our material. It's run by a guy named Brian Miller. They put out a lot of great stuff. They've put out Black Pus, JPEG Mafia, Clipping, Pumpkin Witch, which is one of my favorite current bands of all time.
I like the name Pumpkin Witch.
They're incredible. They literally make albums of Halloween music. It's incredible. When they perform live, they wear pumpkins on their.
Where are they from? Where are they from?
Wait 1 second before where they're from. The pumpkin, especially a white one, but I'll settle for an orange one, is one of my favorite objects. It's like the way that some people collect records. I don't collect pumpkins, but I remember once I had a white pumpkin for 2 years. It traveled around. It moved from one coast to the other. I wouldn't get rid of it. It's like I even got the local greengrocer in Barcelona to start bringing pumpkins, and then grannies all wanted them. I don't know why the pumpkin is so close to my heart. It just is. I wouldn't wear one on my head, but anyway.
That's how they perform. Yeah, they're from somewhere in New Jersey, and actually part of their
shtick.
Mystique, I guess. Yeah, shtick
is wearing the pumpkins.
Is they don't tell anyone where they're really from. They just say New Jersey.
From the pumpkin.
I wonder if I know
patch.
Some of these people.
Pumpkin Patch in New Jersey. So are they wearing paper mache pumpkins?
I have yet to been able to see them perform. I've seen a video of it, and it was hard to differentiate.
It is around that time where there's always the giant pumpkin competitions, which some pumpkins can grow to like 1,000 pounds.
My brother won some of those competitions.
What?
Yeah, because when I was like a munchkin, my parents, my parents were still together and were in Chicago. They had this like weekend like farmhouse up in Wisconsin they go to, and had really rich soil. And my mother gave my older brother these seeds. He must have been 4 or 5 or really young.
And was there a beanstalk involved?
No. Check this out. So my mom says,
only Tim Dahl.
No, if you talk to your
pumpkins,
seeds,
hey.
if you talk to them, they're gonna grow. So my mom would like out of the corner of her eye just see my brother going, I really want you to get really big and all this stuff. And sure enough, these things were hundreds of pounds. It won some like county fair contest. But it was a big problem. Their VW van or bus on the way back to Chicago broke down.
The pumpkin was too heavy.
They blamed it on the fucking pumpkin.
Well, and what are you gonna do with a pumpkin that weighs 100 or 1,000 pounds? I mean, you can actually you could hollow it out and use it as a flotation device.
Yeah, that's probably.
So what scenario are you like drowning?
Hey, the survival series have taught me a lot of different things, and floating in a pumpkin I'm making that up. I'm just kidding.
You heard it first here. Lydia Lunch is now
Yeah.
a Doomsday Prepper.
By the way, I never kill them, but I do make a mean ass pumpkin pie.
All right, here's a quiz.
love
Here's a
that.
quiz for the both of you because
Okay.
Eric Paul, let's see if the two of you together can get 6 of these. You can work together. Eric Paul is a former drummer turned frontman, lead singer, if you will, and there's a bunch of those in mainstream music. There's some of the biggest lead singers were started out as drummers. Can you name 6 right now? And it doesn't matter how bad they are.
Dave Grohl.
Dave Grohl, you already got
Dave
one.
Grohl, Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, you're kind of 2 for 2 here.
Weasel Walt. Oh no, he's not a singer.
No.
Weasel Walter should be.
Well, he doesn't mean karaoke.
He's done it before.
No.
I'm sorry. He's gonna have to be 2.5 for 3.
I'm
stumped.
All I could think of was Phil Collins.
You're giving up already.
I am.
Iggy Pop.
No way.
Yes,
Well,
he
when he was in
was.
high school, it's true.
But just like
I
Eric
didn't
Paul, he's
know that.
originally a drummer.
I didn't know that.
Marvin Gaye.
No way.
Whoa.
Yes, Marvin Gaye. Marvin Gaye was like a pro drummer. He was actually a Motown session drummer. And then
I
at
had
one
no
point, he's
idea.
like, I can take this. I'll sing this thing.
I'm also
You know,
an
you're
equally
never-
amazing singer.
You know, the thing is, Tim Dahl usually wins any guessing game, and I've challenged him on him numerous times. So no doubt he is going to be he's going to stump us, and he did. He stumped us.
endless trivia. Brain.
Knows
Don
everything.
Henley.
Oh, that should have been. Oh, that was.
What about lead singers that have become drummers?
That's Jay Mascis. He has like a side band called like Witch or something like that.
Well, I always threaten to beat things.
Madonna was a drummer before she was.
Yeah.
She was the drummer. She was.
Now
I
she
think
just needs to be beat.
Paul McCartney played a lot of drums for the Beatles, and I always thought that was pretty cool.
Well, you know the classic interview with John Lennon when someone said, "Is Ringo Starr the best drummer in the world?" And he goes, "He's not the best drummer in the Beatles."
I was speaking about drummers that should have been frontmen. Actually, I wouldn't have mind seeing Keith Moon do a song or two.
Singing.
Yeah.
He would have been total punk.
Oh my God.
Brian Chippendale was originally just a drummer. They had a singer, and now he became the singer. So he's the drummer singer.
Yeah, but
now.
he's not. I'm talking about like a lead singer with no instrument kind of deal. I mean, that I wouldn't mind seeing Chippendale do that.
How about drummers that became? No, I'm just getting McConaughey on you. I'm just thinking of Matthew McConaughey naked playing the bongos. He did not sing in a rock band. He should not, but he should play the bongos naked.
But what I'm getting at
I'll
is
pay tickets for that.
I just got his book. It's called Green Light. It's wackadoodle.
I mean, one thing though is being a drummer originally, lead singers do need good time and timing. And,
They do,
and a front person who doesn't really have good time or rhythm, I'd rather have them have bad pitch and good time than good pitch and bad time. So
yeah. I mostly follow the drummer when I am searching for where to place the words.
I've got a pitchfork and I love to have a good time, which is why Tim allows me to be in his band Retrovirus.
Tim's band. I love that.
My band.
I know. God. Nobody wants to claim it at this point.
Oh boy.
Nobody wants to claim it. I've seen Retrovirus and I can see the unhinged elements of it. And you're all looking around like, who is this? Who's running this? This is
You're right. Oh yeah. There's always been that question floating. Not. We know who thinks they're running it.
Oh my God. All right, so
that's gotta be Weasel.
Who?
It's gotta be Weasel.
So the rumor is you didn't like Chinese stars that much. I mean, you did that for like 4 or 5 years.
I didn't like.
So why are you in a band you didn't like?
The impulse to make music was still prevalent, but it was a timing issue. So for me, I learned how to make music. It was the first band I'd ever written songs in. It was the first band that seemed appropriate for lack term, artistic inclinations. And then when it ended, I knew that I wanted to make music, but we were so insecure about it not sounding like Arab on Radar because the comparisons were nonstop. So we were constantly in this identity crisis of how can we make stuff that we enjoy, but it doesn't sound like the music that we sort of learned how to make. And that's how we learned making music, was the manifestation of what Arab on Radar was. We all learned how to make music together. So then during Chinese Stars, I was trying to do these things that were quote unquote outside my comfort zone. I was even encouraged to do things outside of my comfort zone. But when I look back, I was like, I think you were all wrong. And I should have stayed in my comfort zone.
I mean,
Well, 4 or 5 years is a long experiment, and one's just come.
was it that long? 4 or 5 years?
It was a long time, yeah. But what had happened was there were multiple breaks in that band for various drug rehab stints.
Okay.
So we would take quite a bit of time off here and there for multiple members to.
Did you not like
enter
performing in front of disco beats? Because suddenly the sliding hi-hat came out, and you guys were kind of groovy and funky. Did you not like that element?
Well, I did like it because the first Arab on Radar record, which heavily influenced by like Second Edition, the Pill album, and there's a lot of those type of beats on that Second Edition album. We were also heavily influenced by the pop group at that time. James White was just everything to us at that time as well. So that's kind of where we were kind of getting those sort of weird dance vibes from. And I guess I was invested in it at the time, but in the end, it just became something that I didn't enjoy. And then when I look back on it, I'm like indifferent about it.
And then Doomsday Student was back into your comfort zone.
I think so. Yeah, okay. It felt angry. It felt dissonant. It was loud.
And then now
I didn't have to sing, quote unquote.
Right. But Psychic Graveyard.
Sometimes you just hate doing that. Sometimes, don't you?
Yep.
Psychic Graveyard is definitely a new direction. It's not the Arab on Radar template. It's definitely not Chinese Stars.
No,
but it is kind of groovy.
What's the instrumentation? Is that, are there electronics involved? What's going on with that?
Yeah, it's basically Nathan Joyner writes about 70-80% of the songs, the music of the songs. It's mostly done through Voyager, Moog Voyager, but he also has a few other synthesizers that he uses. And he also does a lot of things where he sort of records like field sounds and then turns them into like loops and samples and stuff. And there is a bit of guitar, but the albums are not always guitar driven. There are probably a couple songs. And then when Paul, the guitar player, does use the guitar, it's through a fair amount of pedals to try to almost sound unlike a guitar. So he's experimenting with textures and sounds and kind of getting away from the more riff oriented playing that we used to do in the past.
And do you find that format more liberating for you?
At first I was very terrified about it because it was not just dissonant guitars and me. So at first I didn't know if it was something I could even do. I felt very uncomfortable.
You had to find your place in it.
I did. I really did. And I know this sounds sort of strange, but I also had to kind of find a register and an approach that felt unlike the past bands and tried to do something new. And it's hard because I'm not incredibly versatile. So I kind of feel like with this band, I found a couple mic sounds that I liked. I know that sounds weird to think of a mic as an instrument.
No, but it doesn't sound weird at all.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I did. So I actually would do a lot of these songs through like a CB mic and then mix it with like a clean mic. And it kind of gave this sort of different, more talking approach.
Yeah.
And then it felt like it fit the music, and then it became, it grew into its own identity, and I felt kind of good about that. And then it just kind of clicked, I guess. And now we play with.
You found your register.
Yeah, and we're Arab. I was young. I was in a very high register. Chinese Stars was still kind of in that high register. Doomsday Student was a little bit all over the place, but this one is largely more word focused, more spoken-esque singing than anything else. Not a lot of sing stuff.
Well, and I mean, when I like to use two different mics when I do spoken word with two different effects.
I noticed
because
that
it just adds another texture to what you're doing. So, and I don't have like fancy effects, but I find with spoken word specifically, I don't do it when I'm doing rock. It just adds that something to differentiate where you're going with what you're saying. So
yeah, and whatever you're communicating with the different sound can enhance the meaning of whatever it is you're communicating, and different sounds can do that. And that was largely one of the biggest accidental breakthroughs, where I kind of, Nathan was like, there was this Butthole Surfers song that I've always loved called, I think it's called 26 going on 27 or 27 going 28, whatever it is. But I've always loved Gibby Haynes' vocal sound in it. And that was a discussion that I had with Nathan. And I said, I think that this kind of strange CB mic would sound good over these synths.
One of my favorite songs is Cherub by the Butthole Surfers,
which love that song.
Richard Kern used as a soundtrack for one of his Submit to Me films. And I was obsessed with that song. It's so amazing.
Incredible.
Absolutely.
And that has that
so
mic
sexy
sound
and weird. Right.
Yep.
So sexy, so weird.
Yep.
Such a weird quality to the vocals. There's just something very special. I mean, I literally just got goosebumps up my one leg thinking about that song, or maybe it's thinking about myself, masturbating, just in the rich person.
A hot Gibby Haynes session,
without Gibby Haynes involved, just the music. Thank you very much.
Just the voice of the sound. Yeah. I love that. But yeah, that was kind of the turning point for Suitcase Graveyard for me. And then now when we perform live, there's so many parts going on with the synth that we pre-record them in a sampler, and we break the parts up so they're playing synths through a MIDI, as weird as that sounds, but they're playing the parts from the album. It's very odd. So they have these pretty sophisticated samplers. And then also we did a year without any guitars, but the tour we're doing with Melt Banana, we're bringing back some of the songs that have the guitar on.
And so, by the way, Lydia, because Child Abuse did some of the, I think, first Suitcase Graveyard shows together. And,
our first tour ever.
Yeah, and you would, and I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable here, because I'm going to flatter you here. You're talking about finding your own voice in your own place. From day to day, from day one to day two, it was just rapidly finding its place. And it's just, sometimes you just got to get out in the field and just make the shit fucking happen. And it was within 4 days, it was already at the pro level and ready to hit the world. It was pretty impressive to see. So
our very first show as a band was originally at that place in Brooklyn. I don't remember what it was, but we showed up. It was with Child Bite and PC Worship, and we showed up to play the show. And do you remember the venue was on fire? Do you remember this, Tim?
Maybe I wasn't on that show. Did we?
No, you actually organized the show.
Maybe he organized the fire.
I did?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Child Bite, it was Child Abuse. So it was
Child Abuse. Yeah. Did I say Child Bite?
Yeah, but it's fine.
We just started the tour with them.
Well, we're playing a lot of shows. Well, we're playing the same festival coming up.
Yeah, they're playing. Child Bite's playing that as well. But it was at the Brooklyn. It had Brooklyn in the word. I don't know. And then remember, at the last minute, we had to move it to the Rose Gold or the Rose Room, and it was a smaller room.
Oh yeah,
worship pack. And then that band from the '80s, that noise band, Bleeding Control.
Oh, Control Bleeding.
Yeah, do you remember this night?
Now I do remember. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was the Lydia. We played there. It was the old Polish banquet hall. That's no longer the one that's upstairs with the carpeting.
Or not Warsaw.
No, it wasn't Warsaw. The ones on the corner of Greenpoint and Manhattan Avenue.
Oh, that place was great.
Yeah, we were supposed to play there.
Brooklyn Bazaar.
Brooklyn Bazaar.
Yeah, that
and it was
caught
on
on
fire when we showed up. Remember?
That was a great place to play.
And we were so stressed out about our first show being in New York City. Do you remember
on fire.
We asked you if we could just not play and go to your rehearsal space and practice another day.
Oh, and I said no.
And you said, no, we found another venue. It's happening.
Yeah. I do remember that.
Get over to this address.
But look, I mean, there are all kinds of things you can do in the studio or home studio, vocally or musically.
Yeah.
But it does put it somewhere else to unleash it live.
It's different.
It's a very different thing. It's mandatory because it's a very different thing. I mean, that's one of the reasons I still enjoy playing with Retrovirus is a lot of those songs that were recorded and often never played, that to bring it then live adds, I mean, not only because the musicians are so fantastic, but just puts it where it never had the chance to be before because they weren't done live. A lot of these songs, some of them were, but not, but it's the live experience. And, I'm sorry, but unlike you, I've never been afraid to be on the stage or terrified or
live chops are different than practice chops.
Exactly.
And whether you're a singer, an instrumentalist, a drummer, I mean, you can practice all fucking day and feel like your stamina's up, but until you're really going for it, then that's a whole other thing. Yeah.
You also have a very, very different understanding of the song live than you did recorded. It's a very different song, even though it may sound similar. The feeling of playing it live is a very new feeling considering how it was recorded. And we had all flown in. We had rehearsed for about 12 hours the night before, woke up, drove down to what was it, Brooklyn Bazaar. And then when there was a fire, there was a point of us that said maybe we could use one more day of rehearsal.
Tim Dahl, Taskmaster, get on stage.
And Tim said, "Fuck you, Eric. We got a new room. It's show's happening." But we got it done, and we felt really good about it. But I agree. In that tour that we did with you, we all felt that it was evolving quickly. It was literally our first couple shows. We had only a single out at that time, I think. And it's come a long way. We now, there's also that communication you develop between the people you play with. We hadn't had that communication prior to that moment, right? So it's a lot to learn. And
it's why I love playing with Timothy Seymour Dahl. We got the communication going.
And of course, you didn't mention Charles, who's just an amazing drummer also. Incredible, and great guy. So bands, you don't know why the chemistry works, but when it works, it works. It's
and what ties us all together here on the Lydia and Spin episode number, oh my God, I can't even believe it. It keeps going on and on. Is that we do not stop. We do not give up. We still have the burning in the blood that causes us to create in multiplicity of formats. And for that, we are fucking generous. So suck it up, motherfuckers. Suck it up. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, and Eric Paul. Check it out. Just do it.